Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston.
Today, no guests, as I've been having lately. And normally I would do my show by myself. It is something that, I like to spend some time getting some teaching out there to all of the people who have a lot of questions about, how to lose weight, how to take care of themselves, prevent aging, diabetes, all sorts of huge amounts of issues and problems that I select to talk about with patients. But I had a lot of guests lately. And the reason I have a lot of guests is because there's so much going on in San Antonio. And so I wanted to talk to you just about a few things coming up that I think are really important. First of all, I want to direct everybody back to my site at drpbetterlife.com. That is where you can find some of the archives of shows that I've been doing since about March, April, and weekly. And there's YouTube and iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and a few others. Amazon has their Audible. I'm everywhere that you want to find me. So if you go to drpbetterlife.com, you can find all of those sites with YouTube and whatnot. And I'm so glad that I'm here on San Antonio radio. I've been getting a lot of feedback lately, a lot of calls from people who want to become patients out at my clinic, and it's been growing and doing really well. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So thank all of you. One of the things the other thing I wanted to mention too is on October the 30th, there is an enormous gala here in town taking place. Of course, we're all going to be taking precautions for COVID and taking care of each other in that regard. But there is a gala that is for the Enchanted Hearts Alzheimer's and Dementia Foundation that I have been asked to be their keynote speaker for the evening. And this is such an honor for me because Alzheimer's is near and dear to my heart, but it's also something that is growing, and one of the largest populations that are not really given a lot of attention to are the caregivers and the people who take care of those who have Alzheimer's and dementia. Everybody has something to, treat or do or say for the person who has Alzheimer's, but what about their caretakers? So this is a gala on October the 30th at 7:00 out at the Hilton San Antonio Airport, their ballroom out there. And again, we're going to be taking all sorts of COVID precautions, trying to keep everybody safe. But I am going to speak there. There's going to be several speakers and some caregivers that are going to be honored that night. We would absolutely love to have you. And I'm going to leave that website on my website, drpbetterlife.com, so you can find out where to get tickets. It's not very expensive at all, $65 for you to come out and have a great evening with us and have a sponsorship if you have a business that you feel like would be a good place to expose yourself and get more exposure. We would love to have you sponsor yourself. So I'll leave that on my website. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is near and dear to my heart. I think I've mentioned it on several shows now about diet and exercise, losing weight. That seems to be the most prominent thing on everybody's mind with the COVID-30. I think that everybody has gained this past year. Everybody's ready to get back to their life and get a few of those pounds off. I think many times patients go to the easiest thing that they can look up on the internet and find to get the fastest results. And I caution people about doing that because oftentimes we mistake our abilities to drop weight as something that can be done very quickly and very easily with just a special diet or a special exercise or pill or shot. And that's absolutely not the case. So I'm always trying to warn people about doing something like that. And what I want for people to understand is how your body works underneath and look for something that is a little bit more permanent in a lifestyle change. Something where you can still enjoy your life. Many people like to eat. That's the heart and soul of their socialization and, family time, but it is starting to take over our health and our weight. Obesity is growing at astronomical rates. And so we need to get a handle on this. And again, most people will go to the internet, look up a diet. Many times the keto diet is what is most looked up and definitely most studied by people attempting to try to drop weight really quickly. And the reason I don't like for people to drop weight really quickly and use this type of diet is because you go back to how the body is built. When we're young, we are mostly muscle. And as we get older, we start to lose our muscle mass due to loss of hormones and just the aging process. And our bodies, then the fat cells begin to grow and take on all those excess calories of the bad foods that we eat, and they start to enlarge. And then, as people lose their muscle mass, they lose their metabolism and their ability to bring that fat down or their weight down. And so when patients are looking for something really quick to do in some sort of a diet like keto diet, say, I lost 20 pounds last month. And that really frightens me because most of the time that is water and that is muscle mass that is lost. And it's not actually fat tissue that is lost. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to manage that a little bit more appropriately so that we don't burn off our muscle. Muscle is, and when you look to grow your muscle and maintain your muscle is made up of protein. So protein is a building block of much of our food, such as, beans and meats and, protein shakes and various types of other proteins. And I'm going to leave a good list on my website of some places where you can find sources. But when you take in protein, what you are doing is giving your body back a building block to build that muscle, therefore build your ability to burn fat. So muscle is in proteins and in the amino acids that make up those proteins. Those are the building blocks of your hormones and of all of the enzymatic functions of your body, anything from processing your, vitamins and supplements in your body and making your muscle mass or any hormone in your body. Those come from amino acids making proteins. When your body goes into some sort of starvation state, whether you lower your calories too much or you change up your eating pattern and you get, take on a higher fat content, lower carb, lower calorie altogether, what you do is you end up burning that muscle tissue, and that is your metabolism. So people will explain to me all the time that they will drop 20 pounds and then all of a sudden they'll gain back 40 in almost the same amount of time it took them to lose it. They'll gain back and they'll gain back 40. Then they'll lose 50 and gain 60 and just this yo-yo effect back and forth. And a lot of that tends to be based on the fact that their body is dropping that muscle mass. So when patients talk to me about keto, most of the time they're not really doing the real keto anyway. Most of the time keto to patients means that they are dropping off their calories and their carbohydrates and going on a no carb diet. So the danger in that is that carbohydrates are actually very needed in our body. Whenever you get up in the morning and you get ready to go and your body has that energy to go, and when you're in a meeting or on radio and you need to think quickly or do something quickly, carbohydrates are the fuel that allows you to do that very quickly. If you have excess carbohydrates, especially at the end of the day, then that tends to get stored into fat tissue. Now, on the subject of fat, most people really want to avoid fat. We were told back in the 80s that fat is terrible for us, and actually it's not. There are good fats, there are bad fats, and that is a whole show on itself. But the fat, such as avocados, such as olive oil and nuts and seeds, those are all good types of fats that are very well, used by the body to help our brain function, and our bodies make some of those hormones and whatnot from the proteins that we take in, amino acids that we take in as well. So generally, I talk to people about keeping a 40% 40% protein, 40% fat, good fats, and 20% carbohydrate. And keeping your carbohydrates in a complex type of carbohydrate. So when you look at carbohydrates can be made up of sugar and be very simple, something that is absorbed straight into the bloodstream as sugar. Or it can be complex, where your body has to actually work to digest it. And when it works to digest it, of course, it burns calories then, but it also doesn't get absorbed as straight sugar. So it doesn't go into the body and become, fat or cholesterol, triglycerides, or things like that might, increase your ability to gain weight or become diabetic or those things down the road, but is used as an appropriate fuel for you to get up and think and do all the things that your body needs to do. So whenever you look at carbohydrates, there's the simple and the complex. The complex tends to be more of the fruits and vegetables, things that are grown or walk the earth, not things that are processed. When you go to the store and you look at the boxed foods and all the processed foods, You can look at the label and you can see how many carbohydrates are on the label. You can break it down as to just carbohydrates that you have, but also as sugars. And now the industry is forcing us to label things with added sugars. Before, when you looked at a label for sugars, that was just the grams that was included of the main sugar that was in the food. Now they have to put the added sugar grams on there too. So you look at the sugars of the main sugar that is in the food, but then the added sugars are all the other sugars that they add to it. So your 7 grams of carbohydrate can suddenly become 12 or 16 because of added sugar. So you've got to watch that very carefully. Carbohydrates are also fiber. Fiber is incredibly important for maintaining your digestive system and helping you process carbohydrates correctly. So when you eat an apple, if you take all the peel off and you throw it into a blender and you juice it and you take all the juice out, leaving behind the skin and a lot of the pulp, what you are leaving behind is the fiber. That fiber actually prevents your body from absorbing sugars straight as sugar and allows it to absorb in a more complex fashion so that it doesn't go in straight as sugar and your body utilizes it very differently, doesn't automatically get stored and become extra fat tissue on top of what you've already got. So that's how, carbohydrates are maintained. You do need them. They only need to be about 20% of your meal. So many people will try to cut back their calories and to reduce their overall calorie intake. And, some patients will go from 1,500 down to 1,200 or even lower than that. A lot of diets are based on very low calorie intake. The caution there, again, is that you will turn and burn your muscle for fuel. It's very easy for your body to burn. It will do it quickly. And that is where your metabolism is. When you go on a keto diet, when you go on a low carb diet, when you go on a low calorie diet, you are more apt to burn your muscle tissue rather than burn fat, which is what you're trying to lose. And that way you actually become more fat down the road. It makes it more difficult for you to lose real weight as you go down the road. So that's why I tend to talk more about proteins as opposed to, fats and carbs. High amount of 40% of protein, 40% fat, and 20% carb. That is where I like for people to base their energy intake. So on the protein note, a lot of people ask me about their protein shakes. So protein shakes are very easy for people who just want to get up, take something in and get on the road. That's what I do. I'm usually very busy in the morning. I get up and I go do my workout, come home, I'm getting ready for the office, need to jump in the car and just go. So a protein shake is something that I really like to have once in a while. And I keep a good, and I will leave some of these on my website again, because I think it's very important what types of protein shakes you take in. There are different types, such as a plant-based that are mostly pea protein or soy, and those are okay. But I generally do like to have more protein from a cow source, so the whey protein. Many times people are very sensitive to the protein that comes from the cow, so whey protein or milk or any of the, dairy related proteins, but you can still do it if it's a very clean source that you get it from. So if you get your protein shakes, a whey protein shake from a very clean, a lot of times New Zealand cattle is about the best place that you can find good whey protein. But if you get an organic grass-fed based dairy and no antibiotics, all those buzzwords are very, very important. So organic grass-fed cattle tend to has a very clean way and be processed appropriately where it doesn't, evoke an allergenic response in people. It doesn't make you get gassy and sick or break out in rashes. And so a very, very clean source like that is honestly very easy for people to use. So if you will do that, also you want to look for a type that is based on a 40-40-20 makeup as well. So again, you don't want to get something no carbohydrate, but you definitely want to minimize your carbohydrate intake. And so again, 40% protein, 40% fat, 40% carb. The last thing is really, really important is to get a good reputable brand, because many of these brands will put in something that has heavy metals. So you'll get a brand that is very, very processed. They have a lot of heavy metals such as mercury, lead, arsenic, and that is part of their base and their fillers. And so not only that, but it's deranged in its percentages of protein and carb and fat. And can be based on grain-fed cattle, have a lot of the antibiotic and pesticides to it and whatnot. So you just always want to go back to a very clean source. I have a few of those, and I will, again, put those on my website. Actually, I think they already are. I did a talk on this with the Global Pain Association. And if you want more information, again, you can go to Global Pain Association on Facebook or globalpain.org. And that talk was just a few weeks ago, and it laid a lot of this out as well, and grab some information from that. So if you are, looking to do protein shakes, that's one way of gathering it. Another thing that I recommend that people do too is look for better types of the carbohydrates, such as oatmeal and rice, things that are, and fruits are okay, but there's a whole list of fruits and vegetables that are on the starchy side of the scale. So peas, corn, carrots, potatoes, breads, pastas, those are all things that are definitely more simple in sugar when your body absorbs them. But if you stay along the lines of more of the green vegetables and some of the fruits such as berries and that, you will find that there is an easier way to do your carbohydrate load. You can even add those to your protein shakes and get something that's a little bit more tasty. But again, I will leave all those on my website. So I have a few supplements that I want to mention because a lot of times people talk to me about craving carbohydrates. It's hard for them to get away from carbohydrates. So I want to mention a few supplements that might help you with your carb craving. And we will do that just on the other side. We'll take a short break.
The term beauty is only skin deep takes a new meaning when you find a medical spa that works one-on-one with your individual needs in a safe, relaxing atmosphere. And with medical spa on every corner, why would Dolce Beauty and Laser be different? Owner Lisa Trinquier has designed the ultimate medical spa experience. Botox fillers, laser hair removal, facials, weight loss, body sculpting lasers, an infrared sauna, and more, your body and anti-aging experience is waiting. Our injector specialist has greater than 10 years of experience, more than any other injector in San Antonio. And with me, Dr. Marianne Pinkston, as medical director, we provide the ultra-innovative experience. Go to dolcebl.com, that's DOLCEBL.com, and contact us for a free consult and 10% off your first service. Call 210-686-0505. We are located off I-10 on Camp Bullis Road in North San Antonio at 6865 Camp Bullis Road.
Hey, welcome back. Thank you for listening today. We are talking about proteins, carbohydrates, and fats and how to do your diet in order to actually build muscle and lose weight and actually burn some of the fat that you're trying to burn and not burn the muscle, on the other hand, because muscle is definitely the most important thing we can hang on to prevent us from aging and to help us lose the weight that we want to lose on a more permanent basis. So before we went on break, I mentioned that there are a few supplements that people can use because of carb cravings. I know when it comes to carbs, I'm a carbaholic myself, and I have had to work very hard the last few years to get away from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are to the brain what nicotine and heroin and any other addicting substance that is known to man at this point. Carbohydrates are right up there. So when we talk about staying away from them and not utilize them as much, we really are talking about a major addiction. There were some studies done that showed this addiction to be absolutely proven true, that MRI studies showed the areas of the brain that light up with nicotine and heroin and cocaine and other illicit substances are the same places that light up whenever people are craving carbohydrates. So it's very addicting. So people have to work at that. And I think if you can get away from them for just a short period of time, lower the amount that you take in and, work harder for a few days, even in a few weeks, eventually you really don't want them as much. So it's easier to get away from than you think. But there are a couple of supplements that when you are, knee deep, it's 12 o'clock at night and you're thinking about that refrigerator and what you can do to dig in there and get out of there. I've done that a million times. Then there are a few things that you can take. One of my favorite ones is actually magnesium. I've talked a lot about magnesium in the past. Magnesium deficiencies in our body create carbohydrate cravings. Magnesium is not hard to find. Some magnesiums can have more of a laxative effect, so you need to choose a good version. And I would choose magnesium glycinate for that. It's more absorbed and readily available to the body rather than just to cause a laxative effect. So magnesium glycinate, 600 to 800 milligrams a day of that is very helpful. Chromium is another great weight loss vitamin that I have people take. And it works hard to balance your blood sugar system. So your insulin and blood sugar of your body and what it's trying to do there and stabilizing blood sugars and your hunger. And chromium, picolinate is a very good version of it that's readily available. About 400 milligrams a day, I think, is what's best. And my patients with diabetes, I generally have them on chromium, and it does help with that. My favorite, though, by far is glutamine. So glutamine is a natural amino acid to our body. You can find it in foods. It helps us rebuild our muscle after exercise. It helps us stabilize our gut when we exercise and help lower inflammation in the body. So glutamine can also curb carb cravings. And if you can find a good brand that really has no taste to it, you can open up a 500 milligram capsule or package and literally salt it on your tongue and let it absorb very quickly like that. And that can save you from having a carb craving attack right in front of the TV, or if you're out eating with somebody. That is one way of doing it. Glutamine, you should really take about 500 up to 1,500 milligrams 3 times a day. The more you exercise, the more glutamine that you want to take. And it's sometimes called L-glutamine, but glutamine has some great forms to it. Again, I'm going to have that on my website as well so that you guys can look for some more reputable brands. Many brands can put in a lot of fillers and substitutions that are bad for you, can even raise your blood pressure or do some of the alternative things that we want them to do, can actually be very bad for you. So I will leave a couple of reputable brands on there that you can hook up with and do well for yourself. So with this, with my website, mentioning that, my website is drpbetterlife.com, and that is my website for my blog and YouTube and for all the links to social media and to some of the sites like iTunes and podcasting and all that. So please, drpbetterlife.com, check that out. But I also have a website for my practice. So Pinkston Family Practice SA.com is where you can go and find more information about me as a practitioner. Tells my story of my weight loss. I did lose 162 pounds in the past and worked very hard to put on muscle and rebuild my body from next to nothing. It only took me a couple of years to do it. So you can read more about my story there at PinkstonFamilyPracticeSA.com. You can also reach me at the clinic. So I do have a thriving clinic here in San Antonio, Texas. I do take patients. We have patients who have insurance. We have patients who don't have insurance and do cash pay. It is not expensive. Even the laboratory, we can have this done for you at a very low cost. So please call 210-698-7825. 210-698-7825. Make an appointment and come out and see us. I'm out in Northwest San Antonio at 10865 Shanefield Road, Suite 1101. It's at the back of a yellow shopping center. It's a very humble looking place, but I tell you what, we've got a beautiful large clinic on the inside and been there for several years. I really love this place. So come visit us out there, and we do take all insurances. If you'll call and talk to the girls, they will go over what ones we do take and don't. But again, we do take private pay. And I will be back hopefully next week with Jacqueline Smith to talk more about the gala that is coming up for Alzheimer's and dementia. I am going to leave that on my website. I would love to have you guys come out, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you very much.